What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Bets and Ball Games with Edwards and Greeson. We're recording on Thursday around 3:15 Eastern. Let's get started by telling you about Bet Online, the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. Bet Online has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. Think you know your stuff? Get in on our $200,000 mega contest and pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of 200 large. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Bet online. The game starts here. All right, what's happening, Jay? How we doing?
Doing great, brother. Doing great. I just filed my afternoon Jay's Plays picks and had a baseball pick, an NFL pick, and a college football pick. And that is how sports should be right there. When you've got the full smorgasbord, by golly, you can pick and choose whatever you want to watch and whatever you want to play.
All right. Yeah, no doubt. It's a great time of year. Fired up about it. All right, we're going to start out with a little look back to week one with a little good, bad, and ugly. And we're going to start with the good, and I'll start. And we talked about him a lot this summer. We just didn't think he had the teammates to help him out. But we knew Diego Pavia was a stud. But I mean, I don't know if there was a better performance in America last week. Diego Pavia leads Vandy to a stunning upset over Virginia Tech. Bad on Jay and I. We were on Va Tech. They lose outright as double-digit favorites. Diego, 12 of 16, 190 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and 26 rushing attempts, 111 yards, and 1 touchdown. Shook off a 43-yard game-winning field goal that missed, and he just carried his team to victory. And what I loved afterward, I saw an on-field interview and his media availability after the game, I heard him say it twice. He goes, "I think I'm the best player in the country." And he played like one of them the other day. And Vandy is shocking 1-0 straight up and 1-0 against the spread. All right, what you got for good, Jay?
Well, and what we talked about all summer, Vandy. If you put chips on Vandy on over 3.5, with Alcorn State, Georgia State, and Ball State as their last 3 non-conference, you got to feel pretty damn good about it.
And you could have had 3 at some points in the summer.
But for my good, I'm going to stay a little closer to my Chattanooga home, even though I was in Jordan-Hare, and their freshman wide receivers really looked the part of the 5-star caliber cats that they were ballyhooed to be during the recruiting process. I'm going to go up the road to Knoxville, and they played UTC, and it was a mismatch from the very beginning. But Nico Maliava looked every bit him. He looked every bit the 5-star kid coming out of California. He looked every bit the kid reportedly that was the topic of the Athletic monster feature about him getting upwards of $8 million in NIL to sign with Tennessee. And he looked every bit the part of a quarterback that's going to be hard to handle in Josh Heupel's system.
Yeah, the first score I saw in that game was 38-0, and I was in the sports book with 12 TVs in front of me, but I didn't see that one. But I finally got back from Vegas yesterday morning, and I watched SEC in 60 last night. I literally rewound it 3 times to watch. I just wanted to see that arm cannon he's got. He has got the whole package: size, smarts, speed, and that.
And touch, because Joe Milton last year had maybe the strongest arm in all of college football. And we see with DJU in FSU, he looks the part that every offense. DJ Uiagalelei is the hot girl that every dude in high school thinks he can convert from being the crazy hot girl to just being the cool hot girl. It's never going to happen. He's 6'5", but he's slow, and he's got a cannon arm, and worse yet, he throws the 8-yard hitch at 106 miles an hour. Nico Maliava is all the things you want. And most importantly, he's young.
Yes, he is, and they've got him another year after this, and then they got the number one player in the country coming, assuming he sticks with the verbal. All right, the bad. I got to go with Connor Wegman, and wow, I want to. I hope I want to tell Blake and Max to burn the copy of our QB rankings edition this summer because I am ashamed I had Wegman fairly high and that I didn't have Nico the Uno. Connor Wegman, 12 of 30, 100 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And remember, he came into this game with a 16-2 career TDI and T ratio. He was awful, and that's why Texas A&M is 0-1 in what was a very winnable
Yes.
game for them, a very, very, very winnable game for them. But nope, 0-1. All right, you're bad.
Well, my bad is it's going to be twofold. One, the schedule for a lot of the league was comically bad. I mean, what Ole Miss did, Ole Miss put up more points in that game than they probably would in 11-on-0 drills. Auburn, you mentioned Tennessee, and I think there'll be pressure mounting sooner rather than later. The SEC does away with FCS games. But in this age of college expansion, Brian, two of the most prominent names mentioned to leave the ACC and potentially join the SEC got baptized this past weekend. Clemson being one, and FSU continued to spiral, looking like a whole bunch of mercenaries who have cashed NIL checks, who have decided that they don't give two damns about playing football in Doak Campbell Stadium.
And after 1 week, I think Alabama's glad they got Kalen DeBoer and did not, or I don't know if they did pursue Norvell or how that.
We don't know if they pursued him or not, but he came out in a press conference and said he's not taking that job.
Right.
And you don't say that unless there was at least some contact and conversations.
Right. Exactly. All right. The ugly. I got to go. Everything in Gainesville, just an absolutely pathetic effort. Spurrier lost 5 games by 25 combined points in a 12-year tenure. 41 minus 17 is 24. So Napier almost matched him there. Then he couldn't open the water bottle. The school president resigned like 6 weeks ago. We have an interim school president. We have an athletic director who has made the worst basketball hire in SEC hoops history, Rick Ray, from his Mississippi State tenure. And I will contend, it's debatable, obviously, that Billy Bob is the worst hire in SEC football history. He continues to look awful. And it's a shit show, and I don't know what's fixing it because we've got to fire Strickland and get a quality AD that Lane Kiffin likes, and we got to start getting the donors' money together, and to make this thing happen. And it seems like everybody in the athletic department is just all about self-preservation because they're tied to Strickland and they're tied to Napier. It is an unbelievable shit show in Gainesville. I hope that I hope there's tens of thousands of empties on Saturday, because that's the way you convince everybody that, okay, well, we're going to lose money. We're going to lose money because people aren't going to show up for ball games. And that, changes everything. So I hope it's empty seats galore. Why it took that ass beating to get here. Anybody with 2 eyes knew that Napier and Strickland needed to go a long ass time ago. And that's my G-rated version of what I think is going on at my alma mater right now.
Well, I know that you were passionate about it. And friends, if you want to follow him at the Twitter account listed below, he's worth a follow on Saturdays, especially if the Gators continue to struggle. And with that schedule, brother, it's hard to see more than 3 wins anywhere.
Good.
But for my ugly, because there's a lot of really good football coming up this week. For my ugly, I'm tempted. The only thing worse than scheduling a whole bunch of cupcakes is scheduling a cupcake and then having to scare your fan base to death the way Shane Beamer in South Carolina did against Old Dominion on Saturday. But I will ask this, which was uglier if you can take the passion out of it? Billy Bob Napier not being able to open the water bottle, or that after school ABC made for TV special overacting job Brian Kelly did with that table pounding tantrum after they gift wrapped that game to Southern Cal.
They were both awful.
I
They were,
mean, damn, man.
they were both terrible. Napier wasn't trying to not open the water bottle on purpose, though. So I'll give Kelly the honors on that one.
All right. Well, it's good to have college football back. I know it lasted about because the numbers from Florida were just breathtaking. They had what 280 yards offense, and 70 of it came on the one little
71 on the
one little shuffle pass and around the end.
Yeah, it was absolutely ugly. Just a little apologies or hat tip to who I did not mention in the good. Nate Frazier, true freshman running back from Georgia. Hey, I know South Carolina looked bad, but not their 5-star defensive end, Dylan Stewart. What an absolute stud. They're as good as we think. And Jalen Milroe, Jackson Dart, and Nico. I think those are the three guys to really watch for the Heisman, especially where Gabriel had good stats, but Oregon, I mean, they're up 3 with 6 minutes left on the Vandals of Idaho, who are not FBS anymore. They used to be.
Don't keep Carson Beck out of that team picture either now, brother.
Yeah.
Georgia's legit, and Georgia's going to be there till the very end. And if you're the quarterback of the number one team in the country come that 10th day of December, he's certainly going to be, if he's standing upright, he'll be invited to the Downtown Athletic Club.
Yep. All right, let me give you the updated SEC odds, and then we'll and then actually maybe mention the Heisman odds from our friends at Bet Online, just because we were just kind of referencing that. All right, Georgia's now the plus 150 favorite, Texas plus 350, Bama plus 400, Ole Miss plus 750, the Vols 16-1, LSU 18-1, Mizzou 18-1, Oklahoma 20-1, A&M 22-1, Auburn 33-1, Kentucky 100-1, Florida 150, South Carolina and Arkansas 250, Vandy 300, Mississippi State 500. Would any of those numbers attract a play from you at the moment?
Yeah, I'm, and maybe it's a prisoner of the moment, and we're all prone to overreacting and cue Brian's rant from 10 minutes ago, but I don't necessarily think that's a overreaction from a passionate Florida Gator who's ready for Billy Bob to take a long walk off the shore pier. But Tennessee at 16-1 intrigues me greatly because of the quarterback and because of a schedule that outside of Alabama, I mean, their two toughest games other than Alabama and Georgia are at Oklahoma and this Saturday, but this Saturday doesn't mean anything in terms of chasing an SEC title. And if they can find a way to go 2-1 in those three big games, and they only have one SEC loss, they're headed to Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know about their defense yet, and I'll talk about that more when I give Tennessee as one of my picks, but we'll find out about their secondary a little bit with Concepcion because that dude can play for NC State. But I mean, I don't know that I care about their defense. I think they're just going to outscore everybody, or not everybody, but they're going to outscore.
One of my buddies who follows our show. Hey, Fat Vader, how are you? He reads the 5 at 10 at Times Free Press, my morning column every day, and the afternoon email. He gave me some crazy sick numbers that Josh Heupel in Tennessee since the start of 2 seasons ago, and that was with Hendon Hooker.
Opening drive.
I'm talking about first half overs. It's cashing almost at the pace that Alabama did when you and I rode that about 6 or 7 years ago. It's like, I want to say it's like 18-4 or something along those numbers.
Now, you said over. Did you mean team total over, or you just mean Tennessee to cover?
No, team total over. Their first half, team total.
I got you. Well, I'm already very interested. So BetOnline does not have team totals up yet. I think they'll have them probably tomorrow, or later tonight. But I'm looking. I'm looking to bet Nico every way, sideways, upside down, every way. So I'll be looking for those numbers this week for sure. All right, the updated odds at our friends at Bet Online for the Heisman. Cam Ward, the 7-1 or plus 700 favorite. Dylan Gabriel 8-1. Jalen Milroe 9-1. Jackson Dart 10-1. Travis Hunter 11-1. Don't waste your money; they're not going to win enough games. Carson Beck 12-1, Nico 14-1. Okay, if there's one I would play right now, it would be Nico at 14-1. Quinn Ewers 16-1, Nussmeier 18-1, Miller Moss 20-1, and Nussmeier did look good. We may talk about that a little more as the show continues. Will Howard 22-1, Shador 25-1. Don't waste your money. Cam Rising 25-1, and let me just scroll down to get SEC guys for the rest. Jackson Arnold 40-1. I was impressed by him. SEC Brady Cook 50-1. Our former SEC KJ at UCF 66-1. Wegman 80-1. It should be 8,000-1. Luther Burden 80-1. Arch Manning 100-1. Hey, you never know. Quinn Ewers could have a season-ending injury. Let's see. Will Rogers, formerly SEC, Washington, he's 125-1. Trevor Etienne, 150-1, and that's enough on that. All right. Let's just start breaking down some games, right?
Do you want to go ahead and do our career, our good buddy who's got his career before we go into the next week's monster slate?
Are you an experienced entrepreneur looking to diversify, or are you an employee that's simply tired of answering to the man? If so, let me tell you about our guy, Andy Ludecke, and his business, MyPerfectFranchise.net. Like you, Andy had it with corporate America. He was married with one kid and another on the way, wanted to start his own business, and did just that. Now he's got multiple businesses, a trash company, a gutter company. He can help you do the same thing. Here's how it works. You go to Andy's website, MyPerfectFranchise.net. You set up a intro call, and here's the best thing about it. It's 100% free for a 1-hour consultation with Andy. He cares. He wants to help. He wants to know your passions, your skills, your goals, the time and money you have to invest in this endeavor. Then Andy figures out what sort of business fits your DNA. He registers you with potential franchises. He'll find the best franchise that suits the vision and corporate culture you want. And before you know it, you'll be on your way, and Andy will be making you greenbacks galore. So what are you waiting for? Reach out to Andy at myperfectfranchise.net. All right, let's tackle Texas at Michigan, noon Eastern. So I made the number 6.5. Obviously, it's 7.5. But in week 2, I'm not as confident in my numbers as I will be in a couple of weeks. I'm not interested in Texas, but I'm definitely not interested in Michigan. Their offense is, their defense is going to keep them in games, probably keep them in this game. I'm not laying 7.5 on Texas, but I am interested in them money line parlay. I don't do a lot of college teasers, but if you do them, I think they're teaser material. And they that Colorado State team's not bad, especially offensively, and they just smothered and covered them and bageled them and all that. Any thoughts from you on Texas at Michigan?
I think the only play is Texas, but I'm with you. Once it went north of the full touchdown in the big house, I think there are a lot of teams that really played cards close to the vest, and Michigan being among them in week 1. So it's hard to really gauge. Texas is faster than Michigan. So the only play I would go here is Texas, but there are numerous games on the docket that I like way more than this.
Yeah, agree. I'm okay with Texas in a teaser or money line parlay, but not laying the points. All right, another noon Eastern start. Arkansas at Oklahoma State. Before we get going on that one, got some pretty good stats. Or actually, let me get you the Bet Online line for this one. Where is this one on the board? All right, I got it right here. All right, Bet Online's got Oak State 7.5, total of 62.5. I made Oak State 9. But after watching SEC and 60 last night, Taylor Green's highlights look pretty doggone good. And obviously, I know they were playing a garbage opponent, but did they score touchdowns on 10 straight possessions? And that was without their best receiver, Armstrong, playing, who I know he practiced yesterday. I think he's going to be good to go this week. And here's a stat for you on Arkansas: 12 games as a road underdog under Sam Pittman, 9-3 against the spread. Now, Oak State did play the defending national champions and #1 team in FCS in South Dakota State. And a lot of people that I respect were, maybe saying upset alert all summer. Not so much. 34-14. And that was with Ollie Gordon not really going off. And Bowman, the quarterback, who had a mediocre 15-14 TDI and T ratio last year, 3 touchdown passes, no picks. So I think I'm on the sidelines for this game. And yeah, I think I'm on the sidelines for this one. What do you think?
Well, and I think your number of it being close to 9 is where it's probably going to end up over the weekend. We're taping this Thursday after lunch. I see that it opened at 8.5. It dipped to 7.5 in a lot of places, but there are also now a lot of books that already have it back up to 8, and I could see it maybe even inching further back up to that 8.5, 9 plateau. I think the only play here is the over. I think two offenses that have a whole lot going for them. You mentioned Ollie Gordon. We know Petrino's going to have his bag of tricks handy. And when he's got, I'm not saying Taylor Green is Lamar Jackson, but we've seen that Bobby Petrino can do a whole lot of special things with a kid back there who can scoot. Yep.
And that kid can scoot. And like you mentioned the day we were doing the QB rankings, he's really big. He is a big boy. All right. Let's next go. Well, let me just get out of the way these the FCS ones I was supposed to do at the start. All right. So A&M hosts McNeese State. Not seeing a line on that yet. Georgia, Tennessee Tech. These lines will probably be out late or maybe after lunch on Friday. Florida against Samford, and LSU against Nichols, Vandy against Alcorn, and then I think that is that. So let's next go 3:30 Eastern, South Carolina at Kentucky. I wrote down 10 for my number. I don't think it's budged a lick all week. I know South Carolina looked bad last week, but I saw some things with that defense that were impressive. So I'm not on this game, but I would be a little hesitant to lay the lumber with Kentucky. I'll also note South Carolina has beaten them in back-to-back seasons. Now, one of those, Levis was out injured, and I will mention 5-6 against the spread as a road dog for Beamer. Now, the running back Chip Trayanum, I'm probably butchering that. He's out. The transfer from Ohio State is going to be their starting running back. He was out last week. He's out again this week. The unders cashed in 3 straight head-to-head and 8 of the last 9 between these teams. Vandegrift's UK debut, 12 of 18, 169 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. So the 5-star defensive end, Dylan Stewart, he had 4 tackles, 2 forced fumbles, 1.5 sacks, 1 QB hurry, a 94.4 pass rush grade from Pro Football Focus. And Rocket Sanders, number 3 in the nation last week in forcing missed tackles with 11, and kind of looked like, the Rocket Sanders we were used to when he was a monster for the Razorbacks in 2022. Again, I don't have a play on this one. I will just say that I saw some things I like about South Carolina's defense, but not offensively.
No, not offensively at all. And you mentioned the trends of 8 of the last 9 going under. Man, oh man, if this number stays Kentucky minus 10, which it likely will, did you see the total? The total's 42. So, that is super low for SEC on SEC.
Actually, BetOnline's got the total at 43, but that's the only 43 I see.
So that puts extra weight on that 10. I think Brock Vandegrift's probably the best offensive threat on the field, even more so than Rocket Sanders. And I think his best football is ahead of him. But I don't know how you can trust either one of these teams after what we saw in week one and the trends of how they play each other so defensively minded.
Yeah, and again, there's no 43s except for Bet Online. So if you're thinking under, go see our people at Bet Online. All right. Let's go US. Oh no, let's go Cal at Auburn. And I know Jay's got a lot of, and I'm gonna basically give him the floor on this one with one exception. Justin Wilcox has been very, very, very good to me as an underdog throughout his 8-year tenure at Cal. As a road dog, 17-9. As a home dog, 12-5. He was a dog in one bowl game, 0-1. So by my math, he has been an underdog 44 times at Cal, 29-15 against the spread. And Bet Online has Auburn at 13.5 with a total of 53.
You can find it some places at 13, but as long as it doesn't go over 14, I really like this spot for Auburn for a couple of reasons. I know the weather's starting to break a little bit, but it's going to be that's going to be 2:30 in Lee County, Alabama. It's still going to be pretty humid. It feels a little strange that an ACC at an SEC cross conference matchup, the ACC team's going to have to fly 3,000 miles to Atlanta and then take a bus to Lee County, Alabama. And I think, one, the only reliable Cal offensive option is running back Jaden Ott, and he's a good player.
Real good.
But I think Hugh Freeze is going to continue to – a lot of people who run spread and midline option and those things, they try to stress defenses horizontally, and that makes perfect sense. But Peyton Thorne's not equipped to do that. And I think what we saw Auburn against Alabama A&M, and yes, it was Alabama A&M. That caveat must be said every time you talk about that. Auburn's going to have the ability to stretch the field vertically in a way that I do not think Cal can match up speed-wise. And I just don't think they're going to be able to stay in a shootout in this one. And I really think the closest that Cal can keep this is like 34-17. And I think it may even be worse than that.
For what it's worth, if anything, Phil Steele's national unit rankings had Cal's secondary 47. And let's remember, Auburn escaped Berkeley with a 14-10 non-covering win last year that was extremely fortunate.
Hey, as Auburn fans, that's not even really in the top 5 of offensive colonoscopies that I've had to endure watching this. I mean, for God's sakes, we are the winners of the 3-2 game. I mean,
yes, it's like Groom and Tubbs.
Yeah, so no, I know. I'm no 14-10 felt like Jerry Glanville against those old Houston Cougar teams.
Andre Ware. All right. And David Klingler. Just for conversation purposes, Jay Knott, only 49 yards and 14 carries last week, but 2 touchdowns and 4 catches for 34 yards. Okay.
And to that point,
go ahead.
I mean, if you're going to talk about who Auburn played in week 1, and they played Alabama A&M. Cal played UC Davis.
Right.
And was outgained offensively by about 70 yards.
Did not know that. Wow, that kind of makes me lean toward Auburn. All right, let's see. Next, let's go to Tennessee and NC State, and that one is going to be under the lights at 7:30. Bet Online has the vault. Oh, wow. I didn't know this game's gone all the way up to 10. I'm glad I added more at 8 this morning. I thought it might happen, and it has. Okay, so it's all the way to 10. Bet Online's got the total at 60.5. I'm not so sure that the over's not a look here, but I'm in it with Tennessee at 7 and at 8. So I'm probably going to leave the total alone, but I think it's over if you mess with the total. And what did you get on Tennessee at?
I got them at 7.5 Monday morning.
Okay.
But I will say this, and I think this is an interesting talking point before we break down this game. It'll be real intriguing moving forward. A team like Tennessee, where I'm sitting, I can legally bet with Bet Online, with FanDuel, with DraftKings, wherever I want to go through my phone here. In North Carolina, they can't legally bet yet. So will the odds sway because there's way more money being wagered on a Tennessee because of legalized in-state betting than there is maybe against in state of Georgia or the state of North Carolina? Because North Carolina has legalized it, but I just don't think they've enacted it yet.
Yeah, I mean, now that it's 10, I mean, maybe we'll get some buyback on NC State. We'll see, or maybe who
And
knows?
I
Maybe
agree with you on taking a hard look at the over as long as it stays under 63, and taking a look later in the next few days of what Tennessee's team total is in the first half, because there's a lot of really good matchups this weekend. But I don't know if there's a better duel between quarterbacks than Nico Amaliava and Grayson McCall.
Yeah, and Grayson McCall has got an elite receiver in Kevin Concepcion, who had 9 catches, 121 yards, and 3 touchdowns last week. And he was an absolute stud last year as well, when he had 71 receptions, 839 yards, and 10 touchdowns. So Tennessee secondary, we'll see what they're about. I was talking to a Tennessee fan this morning who's I respect a lot, a sharp handicapper, Tennessee Lee on Twitter, or maybe it's Nashville Lee on Twitter. But anyhow, he told me that he's worried sick about Concepcion. He said he didn't get on Tennessee before the line moved, but he's not touching it now for whatever that may be worth. But he's worth a Twitter follow, that's for sure. Okay, so we're both on Tennessee. I love Tennessee. The team total over in the first half in the game. Like if it's 38 or fewer for the game, and I mean, I think if it's less than 21 for the first half, right? Surely they're not throwing 21 and a half at us, are they? Let's see.
Tennessee's team total?
Yeah.
Oh man, I bet it's closer to 24, brother.
In the first half? Yeah. Oh gosh. Wow. I think I would rather. Well, they're only thinking they're going to win by 10. I don't want to do the math on the air because I may butcher it. Let's.
Don't take your shoe off, will you?
All right. Let's.
35-25.
Okay. That does. Okay. Yeah. So we are going to get a team total of less than 38, probably. All right. Works for me. That works for me. All right, Ole Miss hosting Middle Tennessee. My goodness, did they put it on the Paladins last week? I was glad to see Juice Wells out there, seemingly healthy. He only had 2 catches, but he had like 1,000 yards on those 2 catches. And Trey Harris, Caden Prescorn. This team's so loaded. They are loaded.
I think they handle that number by halftime. I think this is going to be a very similar break out the abacus, touchdown. It's 35-0 when it comes across the scroll midway late in the second quarter. I also think it is very calculated in this day and age of catching eyeballs and attention. And in this day and age, we talked about this all summer. 10-2, the only 10-2 team in the SEC that does not assuredly punch its ticket is possibly Ole Miss, because that schedule is so soft. But if they start stringing together 66-7s against a soft schedule, I mean, hey, Kiffin is the closest thing to Spurrier we've had since Spurrier left. So you and I both know he's going to pull out his laminated sheet for the second and third string dudes, with somewhere in the back of his mind and then the echoing parts of his head, he's going to hear the old ball coach go, "It's their job to stop me." And he's just going to keep airing it out. I think 42, You get this under the magic number of 42, and I like Ole Miss a lot.
And Middle Tennessee, I don't know what Tennessee Tech's got. Maybe you do in the state of Tennessee. But Middle Tennessee, by the way, Derek Mason, new head coach, they only beat them 32-25 as a 24.5-point favorite. So, yeah, I don't lay big numbers like that, but I wonder what their first half line. Hold on, there's probably a first half line on this game already. Okay, 28 in the first half.
I like that. I like that as well. And you may even talk me into liking that more, so that the 49-3 touchdown against who I always call him the James Raines of the world. I was a fraternity brother with James Raine. He walked on Auburn, got to dress a whole lot of games because his dad was Jimmy Raine, the osmosis pressure treated pine guy, billionaire, who is a huge Auburn benefactor. So, I mean, by the time Kiffin starts trotting out those guys who are paying $100,000 a year to tailgate in the primo spots in the Grove, who knows what can happen. But 28 in the first half also feels doable.
Yes. Yeah. I think probably you probably bet Ole Miss any way you want this week and probably be in good shape. Okay. Buffalo at Missouri. I mean, that's not an FCS team. Buffalo used to be a pretty good MAC team. They've kind of floundered in recent years. I'm trying to find Missouri on the board here. Okay, I found it. 361 on the board. Bet Online has Mizzou at minus 34.5, the total of 51.5. Mizzou passed, but I won't be involved.
Correct. You read my thought bubble. Mizzou will pass, but I mean, right there next to it on the list of games, I would much rather lay Alabama and 31 at home than mess around in Missouri at 35.
Yeah. Now, again, I don't like to lay big numbers. And pretty much if a game's like more than 24, unless I'm interested in the underdog, I usually just toss it. But this could be an exception. Houston at Oklahoma, Houston at home last week to UNLV, and I'll give Barry Odom some credit here. Now, Barry Odom went 9-5 last year, brought back 6 starters on defense, 5 on offense. So UNLV is not what they've been over the last 25, 30 years, which is awful. They're pretty good these days, but they go into Houston and they win 27-7. And Oklahoma at last look was 29-ish. And let's see where they are now. Okay, here we go. They are 29 at Bet Online. Total of 50.5. I look in my contest where I picked 25 games. I'm definitely picking Oklahoma. It may not make my sheet, but it's Oklahoma or pass, in my opinion.
Again, I'm with you. I think Houston may be one of those teams we need to take a hard look at on riding a loser, because that was eye-poppingly bad to lose at home by 3 touchdowns to UNLV. I mean that's just hard to fathom.
Yeah. I mean, you're a Big 12 team. You can't be doing that. So we both say Oklahoma or pass. Have we hit on every game that's not FCS? We might have. I'm going through my list here.
Alabama and South Florida.
Yeah, South Florida at Alabama. That's right. And do have we got to do Mississippi State at Arizona State as well. I've got a few notes on Alabama here. And wow, there's another freshman I haven't mentioned yet. Ryan Williams, 2 touches, 2 tutties last week. He's the kid who won't be 18 until I believe February. He reclassified, and understandably, he reclassified. Now, I will remind everyone, Bama got all they wanted in Tampa last year. They got a touchdown with 45 seconds left to make it a 2-possession game and win 17-3 if memory serves. I will say this: USF has a quarterback who is on the radar of all NFL scouts. His name is Byram Brown. And last week, he had They had a 48-3 win over Bethune-Cookman. He was 13 of 20 for 152 yards. He ran for 74 yards on 8 attempts for 1 touchdown, and he got yanked sometime in the third quarter. I will say he ran for 92 yards on 23 attempts against Bama last year and finished the season with 809 rushing yards, 11 touchdowns, and a 26-11 TDI-NT ratio, and threw for 3,292 yards. So I'm not trying to tell people don't bet on Bama and that Byron Brown's going to go off. I'm not trying to say that. I'm just telling you that USF played them tough last year, but Milroe wasn't playing, and they do have a pretty good quarterback, but it's a pass for me.
Well, you talked me into a pass. I had a slight lean to Bama because I think this was one of those games that I think has their attention where maybe it wouldn't normally because of last year. But the Brown kid, I was unaware he was back. So no, that's good intel right there, Brian.
Yeah, and I was listening to a podcast this summer where a scout was talking about how high the NFL people are on this kid, Brown. So the last one we've got is Mississippi State at Arizona State. Now, obviously you're with Kenny Dillingham because he was at Auburn for a minute. I believe he was at Oregon for a minute. He's now the second-year coach at ASU, and Wyoming was getting some pretty good love. I listened to VSiN a lot, and they had all the coaches interviewed. They do the Mountain West media days in Vegas at the Circa, and all those guys, the coaches, are doing the rounds on the VSiN shows. So I heard a lot of talk about Wyoming, and they just got mauled at ASU last week. But then I saw Dillingham, I think it was after practice Monday or Tuesday, just going bananas in his media availability on his team, just blasted them for their worst practice of the year. He goes, we're still a bunch of nobodies. And I kind of like that. Maybe Billy Napier needs to do some of that.
Well, and that's a tough trip now. That's from Starkville all the way to the desert. So let's not pretend that that's just driving down the street.
Do you remember after Katrina? So it was 05. I think it was week 1, and Les the Hat. It might have been his first game. They go out to Arizona State and we're getting smoked. And I want to say they blocked at least one punt or two. It's long.
Lost your audio.
Uh-oh.
Okay, now you're good.
Okay.
So so Les Miles and company go out there and block 2 punts.
Yeah, they rallied and won. Yeah, no. You go out west, you never know. I mean, Auburn got fortunate at Cal last week, but Mississippi State with Diego Pavia at Vandy, I mean, they may be the basement of the SEC. So Arizona State 5.5 at Bet Online, 58.5. Over might be a look there.
You're thinking Devils. You've got this one in your back pocket for that late night.
I'm not laying the points, but I may do the over. This is Pac-12 or Pac-2 after dark, or no, now it's Big 12. But whatever. It's a West Coast game. I'm thinking over 58.5. I might get involved there.
My 2 big ones on the SEC docket. 3 big ones, but I loved it when I got it Monday on Tennessee, NC State at 7.5. 10 can be a scary plateau. I love Auburn under 14 as long as it stays under 14, and I love just about every bet on Lane Kiffin and the Ole Miss offense.
Yeah, and if 10's too steep for you on Tennessee, team totals over, first half, game, what have you. Yeah. All right. So, wow. All right. I think we've covered. Oh, no. Other picks. You got an NFL pick or 2 or 3. And by the way, Kyle Pitts shot down Raheem Morris. He goes, I'm playing. So don't worry about what Raheem Morris. And so on that note, 60-plus receiving yards for Kyle Pitts, plus 175. And I'm not against 70-plus receiving yards, plus 275. I got those numbers from DraftKings. I'm sure BetOnline will have similar numbers at some point this week. Arthur Smith is not coaching Kyle Pitts anymore. He is going to be a monster this year.
I also think you can say the same thing about Bijan Robinson. I think I've seen a lot of national pundits throwing Bijan Robinson's name in the hopper for Offensive Player of the Year because we all know a quarterback's going to win MVP. But the two NFL games that jumped out at me, the first one is tonight. And you can find, I found this afternoon, I want to say it was at Caesars, which has an outlet here in Tennessee. Kansas City was minus 2.5. And the Chiefs at home after winning a Super Bowl, and you're talking about a Ravens team that lost 3 offensive line starters. They lost their defensive coordinator, who's now the head coach in Seattle, and they lost Patrick Queen, who was the coach on the field for that defense. I know Derrick Henry's a big name, but Derrick Henry's also 30. And I don't think they've replenished as much as they have lost. And Patty Mahomes is still on the other side. Andy Reid is still on the other side. I think Xavier Worthy is going to be an absolute dude. And 2 plays a game, Pat Mahomes got to stand back there. He's got to walk in the huddle and go, all right, X-Man going deep on one. X-Man going deep on one. And throw the ball as far as he flipping can and let Xavier Worthy run underneath it. And you got to do it 2 times a game, every game, all year long. But no, I love Kansas City if you can get them under a field goal. My other one is I really like Houston because I think C.J. Stroud is going to be in the mix all year. They're at Indy. And I know it's your boy Anthony Richardson, but it's his first game back in almost a year. But I think C.J. Stroud and Stephon Diggs is going to be something special. And you can find that game as a road favorite. It's still under a field goal in most locales. And I really like the Houston Texans in that spot.
Yeah, so I remember looking at the lines this morning for Baltimore KC, and there were a couple of 2.5s, but it was mostly 3s. Now I'm looking, it's all 2.5s except for DraftKings is at 3, and our good friends at BetOnline have KC at 2.5. I am also on the Chiefs. Even with Hollywood Brown out tonight, I still like KC's wide receivers better than last year. And look, Lamar Jackson is 12-0-1. Against the spread in 13 regular season career games as an underdog. But I'm not turning down Mahomes at Arrowhead at 3 or fewer. Just not going to turn that down. I also like a money line parlay, and I would like – it looks like Detroit's up to 4.5 now. But I like a money line parlay with Detroit and the Dolphins just to win. And I was about to say – if I could get them at 3, buying the hook from 3.5, but it's so expensive, I would like them in straight plays too. But I'm just going to do a money line parlay. Well, it was plus 144 this morning. It might not pay as lucratively now that it looks like Lions are up to 4.5. Maybe that's based on injury news that I haven't seen. Also, I've got a play off the beaten path. I am going to go, well, I'll just tell you one. I like Iowa minus 3 to Iowa. 7-1 straight up, 5-2-1 against the spread the last 8 head-to-head meetings. I'm also going to go with Ohio and South Alabama over 57. So South Alabama lost 52-38 to North Texas last week for 90 combined, but their quarterback Gio Lopez, 432 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. He also ran for a touchdown and 62 yards. They had 582 yards of total offense, and they gave up 550. And Ohio lost 38-22 to Syracuse, gave up 60 combined. And but Ohio's running back Tyus, more than 200 yards. They settled for 3 field goals, including a 20-yarder, so they could have had more points. So I like that one over. Any other college games, non-SEC you like?
Yeah, and I'll start with the one that kind of tangentially connects to one you said. Ohio was right there in the game with Syracuse. Syracuse is going to score a lot of points. Kyle McCord can play, the transfer from Ohio State. But I think Georgia Tech's going to go up there and score a lot of points too, because Haynes King against that defense that really should have given up 30 to Ohio. I like Georgia Tech Syracuse over the 61. I love your pick of Iowa, staying out there in the heartland. I think Nebraska, after Colorado stormed the field last year, has had this game circled against Coach Prime and company for at least a year. And with Dylan Raiola, I don't know who's got the better quarterback, to be quite honest. And that's with me admitting that Shedeur Sanders looked great the other night. But I think Nebraska pushes Colorado around because Colorado is bad on both lines of scrimmage. And then my final one is I love betting on the military academies, especially once we get into the season. You know that FAU allowed Michigan State more than 5 yards a carry, and now they got to try to stop Army. I'll take Army plus 3.5 over FAU.
I hear that. I hear that. Oh gosh, I had a thought. What were you talking about? I'm flipping forgot it. All right. I think we're done here. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Hanks King did not have a rushing proper. I couldn't find it last week. I bet he'll have one in the Syracuse game. If it's less than 55 on his rushing yards, I would go over. Maybe start looking for Jackson Dart. I don't know if he'll have player props for them against Middle Tennessee. Maybe.
That one's scary though because you don't know how long he's going to be on the field.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Good point. All right. That it? I think so. All right. Hopefully our picks will be better this week. Sorry about last week. Hopefully you faded us rather than tailing. For Jay Greeson, I'm Brian Edwards. Best of luck, everybody. Enjoy the games. We're over and out.